And I can't help but think, but looking at the security state that's in place today, the growing sense of a police state that might rival even that of East Germany, I suppose, looking back in time in the 1950s. Isn't this all really partly, if not a greater part of that responsibility, that massive failure in journalism to lay this stuff out, much like you have done in your book, you've uncovered all of this, but mainstream media and the rest of it are basically a bunch of lying bastards who haven't done their job?
Yeah, and I read about that. I mean, there were significant failures, right? Like someone mentioned WMDs and the run-up to Iraq. I mean, these were things that the media has failed on. What we are seeing in these cases, at least in the early ones, has been an unwillingness to be skeptical of them, at least in the early reporting. In many ways, when the government announces a case, any kind of criminal case, that they have the uncanny ability to control the narrative, and the media hasn't been very skeptical of that. I think only recently are we beginning to see a shift in these terrorism cases where the media has started to question it. There was a case in October involving this man named Quasi-Nafis who wanted to bomb the New York Federal Reserve Building. And in the 5th paragraph of the New York Times story, there was a really meaty explanation of the criticism of these cases, the criticism I lay out in the book. And that wasn't happening a year ago. So I agree with you that this was a failure. I am hopeful in the sense that I think there has been started to be more aggressive coverage. I think, for example, the Oregonian has been very skeptical of the case that's going on here. Certainly there could be a lot more that's done, but I agree that there's been a problem, but I'm hopeful that, it's going to get a little bit better.
One more question, Trevor.
Sure.
I wanted to just follow up on that. Don't you think that has to do with the fairness doctrine being dismantled in, I think it was 1985, where now they don't have to have a balance on each side in the media. They can just say whatever they want, and there doesn't have to be any accuracy, any guaranteed accuracy.
I mean, we certainly see that in much of media, like cable news. I think.
So what can we do to change that as the citizens?
I mean, that's a good question. This is like, I mean, support the media. Obviously, that. I would recommend supporting the media that you feel are doing a good job. I think, for example, there's been tremendous growth and explosion in nonprofit media, and I think, you're seeing a lot of good investigative journalism come out of nonprofit media. ProPublica, for example, does wonderful work. So, there are really bright spots, and I think, many people in this room might not agree, but I think daily newspapers as well, maybe not day to day, but often come out with good stories. It just depends, and every reporter is different, right? And there are good reporters at every institution. And some are better than others, and you're going to have good stories. But what we have really seen is this is more of a media story than anything. It's a polarizing shift in media, right? Like people watch MSNBC and they think, I assume people in this crowd.
They become the juries on these trials, and not this group does not represent what the majority out there, if they're television watchers, and they're getting this very biased side of the media. How can they be a good jury? So our justice system is corroded with this kind of balance in society.
Yeah, I think it's a good point. I mean, I don't disagree. Yeah, it's certainly a troubling aspect right now.
Yeah.